It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Kaleel Sakakeeny. Did I pronounce that right?
Well, there's a few that did. Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. I'm flattered.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. It's nice to have you here.
I'm delighted.
I read through your bio and I was really happy to see the organization that you have. I had this conversation with a friend of mine a few years ago who she lost her dog after 16 years or something like that. And we were just talking and she said, I haven't been able to go to work for the last couple of days. And she ended up getting fired from her job because they wouldn't give her the time off. And she was sort of angry about it. Said, if my mother had died or my husband or my sister or anybody, no problem. But when you say your dog died, people laughed. And they didn't, And I have two dogs, and I'm a big animal lover. And so when I saw this come up, I said, "Oh yeah, I want to get this guy on the show," because I think this is a wonderful organization that you have. It's called Animal Talks. Are there a lot of people doing this?
More now, Douglas, than there were, let's say, four or so years ago when we started. I think the pandemic and the forced isolation kind of caused people to bring animals into their lives out of loneliness or desperation. And so when these animals died or when the pandemic ended and they were left having to figure out what to do, this idea of dealing with grief became a little more acceptable because the pandemic was a major grief event. So we are a grief-illiterate society to begin with, a kind of grief-avoidance society. And the pandemic was completely a grief event. And so I think that there was an increase in grief consciousness and processing grief. And with that, I think, came, no pun intended, on the tail end of it, some increasing interest in pet grief and in the effect of the animal-human bond on our spiritual well-being, our physical and emotional well-being. So, yes, there's a long answer, but there are more people doing this work now than before, and I'm very grateful for that.
Well, I am too, because I think that loss of a pet is sort of underappreciated by people, and that you don't really know how that's going to affect you until it happens. Right. I know that the two that I've got now, one is 10 and one is 6, and their time will come. And it's going to be difficult because they, as you well know, they become part of the family. And it's just...
Have you lost a pet before?
Yeah, we did. We lost 2. One, unfortunately, got hit by a car. And the other one just died of old age, a 19-year-old cat. So, when they get to be 19 and they kind of go slowly, like people.
Yes.
So it wasn't so bad because we were expecting it. And, the last 3 or 4 days was tough. And finally, we just took him to the vet and the vet said, I think you should put him down. And so we did. And
you were there for that, right?
Yeah.
You were there for the final hours and minutes.
Yeah. The one that got hit by a car, that was tough because that was just...
Did you see that? You didn't see that. Did you see that?
Well,
were you there?
No, I didn't exactly see it, but I saw the aftermath, which was pretty gruesome. So that was a little tough. And it was funny because we had just got that dog. I mean, we only had him for like a couple of months, and he was a puppy. He got out of the gate, and boom, just like that. And what was really upsetting was that the person that hit him just kept going. It was a hit and run. So
how did you handle that? This is instructive to me, and I'm sure. What did you do to get help?
Well,
in your own grief, in your own pain.
Well, my wife was there, and so, we had each other, and we just took the remains of the dog and buried him in our backyard. We had a big yard, and just had a little silent moment and, hugged each other, and that was about it for that.
But you don't forget it ever.
No, it's a sad point. It's definitely a sad point.
And that's what happens with people. So many people really, I'm not saying this, they don't give themselves permission and time to mourn deeply and understand that grief really is a journey that you go on. And you never, there's no closure. You don't close anything. You will love that animal, that dog, and that cat for the rest of your life. Oh, yeah, the pain softens. Of course it does. There's no question. But it's like a spiral staircase. You see it from different angles. 10 years from now, 8 years, tomorrow, you may be sitting there having a cup of coffee or talking with friends or at work, and somebody mentions a name or a wave of remembrance comes over you. And so my point is that the spirit of the animal and the experience that we shared, and yours is incredibly traumatic, is always with us. And sometimes people don't get help for that. They sort of dismiss it or put it away. But it's always there. And unresolved, unmourned grief causes an awful lot of physical and emotional problems. And I see that all the time in my work.
The one really sad part about having dogs and cats is that their lifespan just isn't near what ours is. It's too bad that you couldn't get, like, one as a puppy and they live to be 80 years old. And then you just get the one for your whole life. I mean, that would be great. But unfortunately, their lifespan is about a quarter of what ours is.
I know. And we know that. And
we know that, yeah.
We know it. We know it somewhere deep inside of us. But the love is so great and the reciprocity is so powerful. But, we say to people, and maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't help, I don't really know. But death doesn't end the relationship. It doesn't end the love. And that we really do grieve and mourn in direct proportion to how much we loved, because love and grief are co-joined emotions. You cannot have one without the other. But in our society, which emphasizes, avoidance, drink, shop, be happy, we don't get that we can't love unless we fully grieve. And when we fully grieve, we really are affirming our love in the deepest possible way.
Yeah, good point. Let me ask you a little bit about your organization, Animal Talks
Sure.
Inc. So what exactly would you do for somebody if they came to you and said, "Oh, I just lost my pet"?
Right. It's a great question. No one's asked that before, in a way. Sometimes the telephone calls come in, and you can hear they'll call directly, and you can hear them sobbing. I mean, just simply heartbroken and sobbing. Other times they'll send an email, which is very stiff and formal. "Hello, I just lost my cat of 18 years. I don't know what to do, period. I think I'm going crazy." And so the range of people's emotions, depending on who they are and where they are in life and what their cultural background is, varies. But when they come to me and reach out to me, the first thing I do is to ask them to write me an email, no editing, no spell checking, to tell me the story. Immediately when they start to write, they've externalized the grief. They've externalized the pain, and they begin to create a story, a narrative around the event, from the time they got the dog or the cat or the bird or the puppy or the bunny to the very end. And then they see then, through this writing, the whole range of their lives together. Then we set up a time to get together. Could be by Zoom, could be by phone, could be in person. And then we start to talk, and I listen. But what's fascinating and what is really incredibly unique about pet grief counseling is within seconds or minutes, the death of the animal and the need to mourn the death triggers unresolved deaths in the past. In seconds, someone will say, "Well, when my mother died, I didn't feel it. When my dad died, I felt bad, but I did." Then we have to go back to the death of the dad, back to the death of the mom, and wonder what it was about the death of the dog that allowed them finally, in this conversation, to talk about the things they didn't talk about when their mom and dad died.
That's interesting. I suppose in all fairness, because we talked about the lifespan of pets not being nearly as long as ours, the one thing about pets, if you lose one, you can go get another one. When your mother dies, you don't go out and get another mother.
No. But you can't get the same pet, no.
But you can't get the same pet, right? And
no. And that's a mistake that people make. I'm going to get another dog. What they're really saying is, I'm going to get the same dog.
Yeah, and that doesn't always work out because the personalities are different. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well,
that's a big topic that comes up. When Reverend Kaleel, should we get another dog? Or do you think I'm ready for it? Or have I mourned long enough? Or how long am I supposed to feel the sadness? And we always say, look, allow yourself to be saturated with the grief. Allow yourself to be saturated with the pain, because when you try to shove it under the rug or avoid it, it will boomerang and come back and really cause some serious emotional and physical problems. I know that when my cat died, she was a big love. I mean, I love all my animals, but this cat especially captivated my soul and my imagination. When she died, I ended up with chronic back pain because I didn't allow the grief to pass through me. I had no grief counselor. There was no grief experts or grief therapists around. So I kind of, sucked it in. And then that's what happened. This woman who lost her job, some companies are now allowing for bereavement periods for pets. Mostly in the UK this is happening. But that grief, whether it's a person, a pet, has to be given the freedom to be felt, expressed, and move. And so we never move on, we move forward.
I'm happy to hear that some companies are sort of recognizing that because...
Belatedly.
Yeah. The one thing that you said, too, that was interesting was that when people started to talk about the loss of their pet, immediately they related to the loss of a human. And
isn't that fascinating?
I thought that was very interesting. The one thing I will say is that a lot of times when people lose their mother, their father, brother, sister, something like that, not all the time, but sometimes they had unresolved issues with those people.
Brilliant. Absolutely right.
Okay, where people for the most part don't have that with their pets.
That is perfect.
I don't have any issues with my dogs.
That is absolutely beautifully said.
I mean, they're just, the love is so unconditional, and the rules are simple. With a pet, you take care of them, you feed them, and you love them, and that's it. That's really all you have to do. They don't put conditions on their love for you like people do.
God bless you for that insight. You're absolutely right. Our relationships with our parents, our siblings, our spouses, as you said very brilliantly, are very complex. There's betrayal that's involved. There's disappointment. There's judgment. There's failure. There's hurt. But I always say that the dogs, the cats, or animals are the angels of our better selves. They bring out the best in us, whereas the people closest to our hearts, the people that we love, like parents and siblings, don't always bring out the best in us. I think it was Robert Louis Stevenson who said, "Dear Lord, please make me into the person my dog thinks I am." And so we really do strive to fulfill their expectations of us. But with people, as you said, it's marred. But our relation with our pets is free from that. And what a tremendous sense of self that gives us.
Oh, absolutely. My dog does not care how fat I get, what my hair looks like, what clothes I'm wearing. Right. Just, they don't care.
That's right. All right. The love is there. And so can you imagine the great feeling that is within us? We begin to love ourselves more because the pet loves us. But so when that pet dies, one of the biggest fears I hear is that, I will no longer be this better self. I will revert back to the impatient, irritable, judgmental, cranky being that I was, because I don't have my dog or my cat or my bunny or my bird to bring out the best in me. the angel of my better self is gone.
Yeah. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention, too, is that generally speaking, if I encounter a bad dog or a bad cat, it's generally owned by a bad person. That
Totally agree.
They don't start out that way. And when you've got a dog that just won't stop barking or has destructive behavior or something like that, most of the time it's a bad owner who probably should not have that dog.
I think you're absolutely right. I have spent hundreds of dollars on trainers, online training, in-person training, because I have impatience. I can get irritated. I can get frustrated. Is my dog barking at the neighbor? So I can see myself getting annoyed, getting angry. That's human. We're human. It's human beings, human nature. So I want to give the dog and me, our relationship, the best chance possible. So it's a lot of work for the dog or a cat. Or you need to find the ways to communicate. And oftentimes, I teach a class on animal communication, and it isn't so much about judging their behavior, but it's getting in sync with their energy. And when that trust occurs between the two of you, the relationship just simply moves forward almost effortlessly.
Oh, yeah. And in fact, I think that they figure out my routine faster than I figure out theirs.
Well, they know they know what you're gonna. They know you're thinking before you even know what you're thinking.
Right. Oh, exactly.
They have a keen sense of perception, and that's a beautiful feeling for us, to be known. And we smile at it, we laugh at it, we feel laughter about it. So when that's gone, that's a big part of ourselves is gone. And I always encourage people to engage in ceremony at the end. So I was touched when you said that you and your wife picked your beloved dog up and put her in your yard. And I'm curious as to know whether you said a moment of silence. I wonder, did you do anything else? Did you plant a tree? Did you put a bush? Did you put some flowers? Did you put a dog bowl there? Or was there any kind of ritual that went along with that?
Well, we put a big stone right on top of where we buried him, and it's just as a marker, so we know where it is. And we keep the grass cut around, and it's near a tree, so it's just that's going to be his little spot, right? That's it.
But people don't realize how important that is, Douglas. They really don't. I mean, we need rituals. When somebody dies, when a human being dies, we have a wake, we have a funeral. Sometimes we have a 40-day mass. We have whatever. We light candles. We have a mercy meal. Now we have less and less so these days, I suppose. We have a celebration of life ceremonies in which the body isn't even there anymore. But so I think I always encourage people to engage in rituals, and that surprises them because they want to hide the photographs or the dog collar or the dog bowl because it's associated with too many painful memories. But when they literally and figuratively bring it out into the open and create a place for it in the house, in the garden, wherever, that just enables the grief to come out of them and take on a form that helps them grow as opposed to makes them suffer.
Oh, that's true. I think on that we're going to have to kind of wind this down. Thank you so much for coming on. Can you give out your website?
This is great.
Give out your website.
Sure. It's Animal Talks, that's a plural, animaltalksinc.com, animaltalksinc.com. It's a 501c3, meaning it's a nonprofit animal charity. In case anybody's inclined to donate, it's tax deductible. But there's a lot of resources there for those whose hearts are broken and whose spirits are wavering. Go, take a look, listen to something, watch something. Let us know if we can help you in any way possible. And this show is a blessing because it really does shine a light on some dark places. So I just want to thank you for inviting me, Douglas, and wish you all the best.
It's my pleasure. And I want to thank you for creating this organization because we need more of them. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
God bless you. We'll talk again sometime. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.